Some anime characters are powerful. Then there are the ones who make the word powerful sound cute. The kind of characters where the strongest villain in the series would probably survive longer by apologizing than fighting. The wild part is, the best of them are not memorable just because they can destroy armies or warp reality. They are memorable because their power changes the whole shape of the story. Sometimes it becomes guilt, sometimes it becomes loneliness, sometimes it becomes a moral disaster, and sometimes it just makes everyone else look like they wandered into the wrong universe. So today, we are counting down 10 anime characters who are basically literal gods. At number 10, we have Altair from Recreators. Altair is one of those characters who feels less like a person and more like a glitch in the concept of fiction itself. That is what I love about her. She is not just powerful, she is dangerous in a very modern way. She feeds on belief, interpretation, fan energy, and all that messy stuff that lives around stories instead of inside them. And that is what makes her so fun. The show turns the whole idea of power scaling into a weird little war between creators, characters, and audiences. Which is the most anime thing ever, by the way. Leave it to anime to look at fandom culture and go, you know what? This is now a weapon. What I personally like is that Altair never feels like she was designed just to be cool. She feels like an idea that got loose. That is a lot scarier. A swordsman can be beaten, a mage can run out of mana, but a character powered by meaning, good luck with that. At number 9, we have Ryner Lute from The Legend of the Legendary Heroes. First of all, that title sounds like it was named by a bard who had 3 seconds to finish the job. But Ryner Lute himself? Ridiculous. Absolute menace. Ryner is the kind of character whose power does not feel heroic at all. It feels cursed. He has that, if this guy actually loses control, everybody is finished energy. And what makes him interesting is not that he can blow people up, it is that he does not really seem built for the kind of life that power demands. That contrast is why I remember him. A lot of overpowered characters look like they were born to win. Ryner looks like he was handed a catastrophe and told to sit down and be normal about it. Which, let us be real, is impossible. No one is normal about that. Also, I always respect a character whose vibe is basically, I would like one nap, and possibly also for the government to stop using me as a weapon. Relatable. Sadly, most of us only get one of those. At number 8, we have Ichiro Inuyashiki from Inuyashiki Last Hero. Ichiro is the rare type of god-tier character who makes you feel emotional just watching him exist. He is not powerful in the flashy, smug, look at me crush this building way. He is powerful in the heartbreaking way. Like, if you gave an ordinary human godlike power and left them with a soft heart, this is probably the result. And that is why his story hits so hard. The show does not treat his abilities like a fantasy. It treats them like a chance. A chance to be seen. A chance to matter. A chance to do something decent in a world that already wrote him off. I think one of the reasons I like Ichiro so much is because he feels human first and superhuman second. That matters. A lot of anime forgets that. They give someone godlike abilities and then instantly turn them into a walking catchphrase machine. Ichiro never loses that emotional core, and that is what makes him feel bigger than the action scenes. At number 7, we have Casshern from Casshern Sins. Casshern is what happens when immortality stops being cool and starts being a punishment. And I mean that in the best possible way narratively. He is absurdly strong, but the show uses that strength like a mirror for guilt, loss, and exhaustion. This is one of those anime where the power itself is not the point. The suffering around the power is. And that is why it sticks. Casshern can keep getting back up, but that does not make anything easier. It just means he has to keep walking through the consequences. Personally, I love characters like this because they force the story to slow down and ask something better than who would win. They ask, what does it cost to keep surviving when everything else is breaking? That is a way more interesting question, and Casshern Sins leans into it hard. Also, the atmosphere in that show, brutal. It feels like the world itself already gave up, which is not exactly a cheerful morning watch, but it is unforgettable. At number 6, we have Helck from Helck. Helck is such a great trick of a character, because at first he feels like a joke. A giant smiling powerhouse? Sure. That could have been a generic, haha he is strong setup. But the show keeps peeling it back, and eventually you realise the smile is not just a gimmick, it is covering up something far darker. That is what I love about Helck. He starts out like he is there to entertain you, then suddenly you are sitting there thinking, oh, this man is carrying a whole ruined world in his head. And the emotional whiplash works because it is earned. He is one of those characters where the power is not the fantasy, the power is the scar. And that lands because it feels like the show understands something a lot of overpowered stories miss. Sometimes, strength is just a fancy word for damage. By the way, if you are enjoying this list, do me a favour and hit like and subscribe. And comment below with the character you think is the most unfairly overpowered in anime. I actually read those, and I'm curious which one you are putting at number 1. Coming at number 5, we have Tokuchi from 1 Outs. This guy is not overpowered in the usual sense. He is overpowered in the way a shark is overpowered in a bathtub. The man does not need super strength. He has something worse for his enemies: complete psychological control. Toua is one of my favourite anime masterminds because he does not just outplay people, he humiliates the idea that they ever had the game figured out. Baseball in 1 Outs is basically a battlefield for contracts, manipulation, ego, and nerve damage, which is a weirdly perfect setup for a genius like him. What makes him fun is that he is never trying to look cool. He is trying to win so hard that the concept of fair becomes a personal insult. And I respect that level of commitment. It is deranged, it is petty, it is beautiful. He is also the kind of character who makes you say, okay, I hate that this worked, but I also need to see the next move. That is elite writing right there. At number 4, we have Shichika Yasuri from Katanagatari. Shichika is one of those characters that sneaks up on you. At first he feels almost too calm, too blank, too simple. Then you realise the man is basically a human weapon with the emotional depth of a locked room. And somehow that turns into one of the most satisfying character journeys in anime. What I love about Shichika is that his power is not just physical, it is structural. The show makes his strength a problem because he is so strong that he has to constantly hold himself back. That is such a clever inversion. He is not a guy who overcomes the world, he is a guy who has to learn how to live inside it. And the relationship energy in Katanagatari is just excellent. It is sharp, strange, funny, and then suddenly it is emotionally devastating, which is rude, but effective. This is one of those shows where the dialogue does a lot of the heavy lifting, and Shichika grows in a way that feels earned, not manufactured. That is rare, very rare. Snagging the bronze medal, we have the Medicine Seller from Mononoke. The Medicine Seller is not the kind of character who walks into a room and dominates it with brute force. He dominates it with presence, with mystery, with that quiet, unreadable energy that makes every other character seem like they are talking too much. What I adore about Mononoke is that the Medicine Seller's power is tied to understanding. He cannot just swing a sword and solve everything like some shiny little disaster wizard. He has to dig into the truth, and that makes the whole show feel smarter than most supernatural anime. The first time I watched it, I remember thinking the visuals were almost too much at times in the best possible way. It feels like a fever dream made by an artist who personally hates boring colour palettes. And the Medicine Seller fits that world perfectly because he feels less like a hero and more like a judgment. He is one of the coolest characters on this list because he makes power feel ceremonial, not loud, not messy, just final. As the runner-up, we have Koto from Kyousougiga. Koto is pure chaos in the most charming way possible. She has that, I could break reality, but I am busy having a weirdly sincere emotional journey energy, and I love that about her. Kyousougiga is one of those shows that looks like nonsense until, suddenly, it is absolutely breaking your heart. Koto's power is huge, but what really makes her memorable is that she is surrounded by emotional damage that she cannot just punch away. That is the thing. The strongest characters are often the least equipped to fix the actual problem, and Koto is a great example of that. She is loud, lively, playful, and destructive, but underneath that, there is this really strong sense that she is trying to bring something fractured back together. That gives her power weight. It is not just there for spectacle. Also, every time a character in this show tries to act like they understand what is going on, the story basically laughs at them. Respectfully. Then it hits them with the emotional equivalent of a chair to the forehead. And finally, at number 1, we have the Idaten from the Idaten Deities Know Only Peace. Yeah, this one takes the top spot, because the Idaten are not just overpowered, they are terrifying. The show does not present them as underdogs or noble champions. It presents them as beings so absurdly above everyone else that the real tension comes from what kind of nightmare that creates. And that is why this series stands out to me. A lot of anime love godlike characters, but they still want you to cheer for them in a clean, comfortable way. The Idaten are not comfortable. They are chaotic, cold, and way too casual about things that would make a normal person throw up and start a new religion. That moral emptiness is what makes them memorable. You are not watching a hero overcome impossible odds. You are watching a world try to survive being looked at by something that barely counts as merciful. And I will say this, that kind of storytelling is way more interesting than simple strong guy wins. Because when the characters are already invincible, the writer has to actually work. They have to make the conflict about ethics, strategy, and terror. That is where this show gets sharp. So yeah, those are 10 anime characters who are basically gods, monsters, or something in between, depending on how badly the writer wanted to traumatize the cast. And honestly, I think that is the best kind of overpowered character. Not the one who just wins every fight. The one who forces the entire story to become smarter, darker, or more emotional just to keep up. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more anime lists that do not sound like they were written by a vending machine. And make sure you check out my next video, 10 forgotten anime that are still unmatched in 2026, because that one is a real deep cut trip. Alright, I will catch you in the next one.